Hi, everyone. So thank you so much for joining us. Our launch program is now beginning and will last approximately 1.5 hours. This session will be recorded. We'd like to begin to acknowledge all of the Indigenous lands that we are on today. We do this as a community to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships and understanding of local Indigenous peoples and cultures. Hosting this call from Winnipeg, we acknowledge that we are gathered on Treaty 1 territory, the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Ojibwe Cree, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and homeland of the Métis Nation. So hi, everybody. I'm Evelyn, and I'm Nadine's daughter and one of your co-hosts for today. I am the Sport and Fitness Supervisor at Red River College in Winnipeg. I'm the proud mom of Nadine's 2-year-old granddaughter, Elise, and also a personal trainer and former volleyball player. I was the first reader of my mom's first book, The Brantford Wagers, and I loved it. It was a really fun read. And now here we are at the launch of the second novel in the Brantford series called Charlie Reyne. I'm very proud of my mom for writing this next book and getting it on the market, and I'm happy for us all to be here to celebrate her launch of Charlie Reyne.
Hi, I'm Allie, Nadine's daughter-in-law and the mother of her 2 grandsons, Huxley and Paxton. I enjoyed reading the author's proofs for both books whenever I could steal a few minutes away from my kids. So Evelyn and I both speak from experience in inviting you into the fun world of historical fiction in the Regency period. Honestly, even as a tired mom of 2 toddlers, I found myself still reading these books day and night. Although still on a few more months of maternity leave, I am a teacher in LaSalle, Manitoba with a master's in early childhood literacy. I'm so delighted to be your co-host, and we invite you to relax and settle in. We'll be your program guides and present your chat questions to the author during the Q&A. Now, for the guest of honor, let's welcome author Nadine Kampen. Nadine, over to you.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. It's so nice to see you here on this call with us. Thank you for coming to the launch of Charlie Reyne, and welcome back for some of you who also attended the launch of the Brantford Wagers in 2022. I'm so fortunate to have a terrific launch team with my wonderful daughter and daughter-in-law as co-hosts, my dear sister-in-law, and wonderful friends as presenters. I've had a lot of fun writing Charlie Reyne. This period in history is intense, transformative in many respects, and fascinating. I thoroughly enjoyed creating the setting and background for this novel. Charlie Reyne is the second novel in the Brantford series, and it includes several of the Brantford family members who were introduced in the Brantford Wagers. Charlie Reyne is the heroine. I hope you come to love her as I do. I'd like to share with you that my novel, Charlie Reyne, is dedicated to my mom, Vivian Shannon. Mom is an inspiration not only to me, but to countless others. I'm one of her biggest fans. We're so pleased as a family to celebrate a milestone birthday in 2 weeks. Vivian is celebrating her 95th birthday on October 8, 2024. Mom, beautiful Vivian, will you please turn on your video and mic and say hello to us?
Thank you. Thank you very much to my daughter for asking me to join in this wonderful event. I am thrilled and honored by her to have my name mentioned as being dedicated to me. Nadine has done so much work, and it's amazing where it all comes from. I'm just not really sure, but it's wonderful. And I can hardly wait to have a copy of Charlie Reyne in my hands. Many thanks also to all the rest of the people who have worked so hard on this event. And please do enjoy what's coming after this. And I hope you enjoy looking forward to reading the book as I do. Thank you so much, Nadine.
Thank you, Mom. These are nice shots of Mom playing violin. Mom last year at her 94th birthday party, and just a nice shot when she was playing at an event in Gimli. And I'd invite my girls, my other girls, to come on. Elaine, Nancy, and Bev, you can turn your videos on. Let me introduce our guest presenters. My sister-in-law Elaine will assist with a history quiz. Elaine can be quite intimidating when it comes to playing family games. She's a whiz at most brain games and a master of music trivia. I always try to get on the same team as Elaine when we're playing family games. Elaine, thank you for being on the team. During our program, Nancy Dick, who's in Winnipeg for this call but lives in Alberta, will share a few of the details about my career background. Fun fact, Nancy and I met the night before my wedding, and I immediately put her to work putting out food at a house party. We've enjoyed a lasting friendship. Nancy has a wicked sense of humor, and I'm a great sidekick once I figure out the joke. Bev Adam is also on the team, calling from Stony Plain, Alberta. Bev and I go back to elementary school days. While attending junior high, we accidentally had identical winter coats and matching duffel bags. When we walked to school together, our school friends used to giggle when they saw us coming. Elaine, Nancy, and Bev, I'm turning this over to you to say your greetings.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Elaine Shannon, and I've been Nadine's sister-in-law for, it's coming up 45 years now. Been married to her brother that long. I've had a long career in the benefits, employee benefits industry. Most of that time was spent with Alberta Blue Cross. It started off actually at Manitoba Blue Cross briefly, and then when we moved to Alberta, I joined Alberta Blue Cross. I am semi-retired, but I still work with a group of individuals called the Canadian Pension Benefits Institute, and we put on programming for people in the benefits, investment, and pension industry across Canada. I am an avid golfer. In fact, I had to give up a golf game to do this today, so you're welcome. And I am one of the biggest Blue Bomber fans in Alberta. One of the highlights of my golfing life is that my husband and I were able to go to St. Andrews in Scotland and play the course out there and a few other courses. I thoroughly enjoyed Scotland. It is an absolutely beautiful country, and I can't wait to go back. Nadine and I, of course, met when I met her brother, and we spent time carpooling together during our days going back and forth to the University of Manitoba. And but now, of course, the view is so much nicer. In 2019, for example, we celebrated milestone anniversaries on a cruise ship. It was Ron and I 40th wedding anniversary, and Art and Nadine joined us and my other family in Winnipeg on a very lovely cruise all the way down to the Panama Canal. Of course, COVID had other ideas, so it was also quite an adventure at the time. So thank you very much, Nadine, for inviting me to be part of this absolutely beautiful book launch. I know that all of you will enjoy the book. I sure will. And I thank you for the opportunity to be a part of this.
Thank you, Elaine.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Nancy Dick. I am currently visiting here in Winnipeg, and I'm with my daughter-in-law, Mackenzie, at her home. While I was listening to Elaine, I was struck quite nicely, I suppose, by how many things she and I have in common, both Albertans who are definitely Bomber fans. And we were recently in Scotland on a family vacation with our son, Stephen, and my daughter-in-law, Mackenzie. My home province is Nova Scotia. I've been proud to call many different places home, including Hong Kong, where Nadine's son, Keith, is now working at my former school. I do live in Carstairs, and the reason we live there is we have 2 grandchildren who are in Carstairs, and that was our entire motivation for moving there. I'm delighted to be here this afternoon. I have started reading Charlie Reyne, and I'm, a little put out that I had to put the book down to come and join and tell the rest of you about it, but I'm very happy to be here today, and thank you. Thank you, Nadine, for putting me on. Bev, up to you.
Okay, I am Bev Adam. I'm a retired junior high teacher at St. Matthew Lutheran School in Stony Plain. I met my husband at our church, and even though I promised my mother I'd be home in 5 years, because we are in Alberta, when you marry a farmer, that doesn't happen. So we still own the farm. We are a 4-generation farm, and my son is now the primary farmer. My pastimes are I still teach, but I teach adults now, and I teach, it's called Women in the Word. And I also do some subbing, a little bit of subbing at our school, even though they throw the old girl a bone every once in a while, which is kind of fun. I sing, and I was honored to sing with Uncle Donald at Nadine's, and Auntie Vivian played as well, sorry, at Nadine's convention in 2016. In saying a convention, you may not know, but we, Auntie Vivian, Nadine, and I all have bragging rights to being past provincial presidents of our respective provinces in a sisterhood called PEO. It's a philanthropical educational organization, and we are still all members. So lots to keep me busy, and I'm sure as you noticed our dear author here, she is extremely busy, and I can only send her love and praise.
Thank you, you three Albertans. I suppose I should add I was born in Alberta, so raised in Manitoba and call Manitoba home. So thank you so much, gals, and let's proceed then and over to back to our co-hosts. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to our presenters. Welcome guests. We're so excited to have you join us. We prepared a map that shows the different places where people are calling from. If we've missed adding your city to the map, please add it into the chat line and we will update it later. Let's take a look at our guest map. We are especially delighted to welcome Nadine's mom, Vivian. As you've heard, she is calling from the gorgeous lakeside in Gimli, Manitoba, along with sister Deb and several friends. Most of our guests are on the call from North America, with friends joining us in Manitoba from Winnipeg, Gimli, Selkirk, Portage-la-Prairie, and LaSalle, from Regina, Saskatchewan, from Alberta, Stony Plain, Edmonton, Grand Prairie, and Calgary. To the east from Ontario, we welcome callers in Toronto, Ottawa, and Thunder Bay. We welcome guests from England and Australia, and we've had well wishes sent in advance for the launch from the Southeast Asia, from happy travelers in Greece, and from family members Keith and Edith in Hong Kong. We also have callers from Phoenix, Arizona, and from Austin, Texas. No doubt we've missed a few locations. Thank you so much to everyone who's joined us.
For most people, unless they're collaborating with someone on a project, the writing of a book is a solitary activity with hours spent alone at your computer. The production of a book, however, is anything but solitary work. It takes a skilled team to accomplish the different tasks in getting a book ready for publication. It's our pleasure to introduce you to the talented professionals who helped produce Charlie Reyne.
The beautiful logo for Birdsgate Publishing has been designed by Kat Hollischuk. Kat is a senior graphic designer with Scantex Prairies and Territories region and is a dear friend and former colleague of Nadine's. We'd like to give a friendly shout out to Kat for this gorgeous design. Thank you, Kat. You can see in the photograph how great the logo looks on the spines of the first two novels in the Birdsgate Publishing collection. The Brantford Wagers is the first story in the Brantford series, and Charlie Reyne is the second book, which can be read in any order. The timing of the stories is simultaneous, and there are a few points in time where the storylines intersect. Nadine is getting underway on her next novel, still within the Brantford series, but this time set a decade earlier. The cover of the Brantford Wagers is from the bespoke book cover design team of Peter and Caroline O'Connor in England. You can see some examples from their extensive portfolio. The rich colors and styling of the covers of the Brantford Wagers and Charlie Reyne and use of period outfits helps to invite fans of historical fiction to engage with these books. Readers can tell at once that these are historical novels in Regency era. Nadine thoroughly enjoyed and appreciated her time working with this team in cover development and is inspired by their talent and creativity. Nadine is looking forward to her next project with bespoke book covers in the future. Here you can see these lovely features of the color images in the slide. The color scheme and the setting sun are just gorgeous. For the reader, the setting of the pier, the harbor, and the frigate in the background immediately convey information that the novel takes place in a historical setting during the age of sail. The clothing of the characters on the cover is also a clue that this story takes place in the Georgian or Regency period. The covers of both the Brantford Wages shown here and Charlie Reyne help convey to the reader that these books are part of a series. Notice the similarities in design, the font used for the titles, position of elements on the cover, the styling for the author's name, the gold lettering and styling and placement of characters also hint at these novels being connected in important ways. Peter and Caroline, thank you for your good wishes for the launch and fine cover designs for these two novels. Nadine sends her appreciation and thanks. We're very delighted to welcome Nikki to the call. Nikki, if your system is working, we'd love for you to turn on your video and mic. Nikki Gallier is a technical editor and author. Nikki and Nadine met online in 2022 when Nikki reviewed Nadine's first book in the now closed Discovering Diamonds program in England. When it came to gating a technical review, Nadine turned to Nikki for her skills and support. Thank you, Nikki, for sharing your talent, insights, knowledge, and professional skills in helping get Charlie Reyne into great shape for our readers to enjoy.
Having editing proofs completed by a professional editor is a critical phase of book development. An experienced technical editor provides valuable insights into such issues as logistics, terminology, historical accuracy, and story setting. In addition to regular proofing services, the technical editor also checks for such things as repetition, good grammar, and by request for differences between language use in the UK and other English-speaking countries. You can see a few examples of the types of text notes Nikki provided for Nadine to consider, along with the customary range of proofing markups for missing words and text errors. Thank you so much, Nikki, for your technical editing and recommendations to improve the novel and help strengthen and refine the manuscript. And at this point, Nikki, I'm not sure if there's anything you wanted to share, but feel free to hop on for a second. If not, no pressure. Feel free to also type in an email address in the chat if you have a contact email where our guests can reach you. Thank you, Nikki.
Yeah, really quickly. Hi, everybody. It was an absolute delight working on this. It was two of my favorite eras, in that it's the Navy and the Army of the Napoleonic era. It was very lucky for Nadine that I do have knowledge of this area. I wasn't floundering so much, so a lot of it came naturally, and I could work with her to make it more authentic. I mean, she's a brilliant writer, and I thoroughly enjoyed working on it. It's a fantastic story, and it's just so it was really just working with what was already there and just twisting a little bit. And as I do these things, I learn as well. So if you look at the third example there about the 8 bells, there is a specific way of ships managing time when you're crossing different borders, and it's all to do with the bells. And I knew that they existed, but I didn't know the full range of them. So I learned something as well as helping Nadine get everything right. So that's part of what I do. Is if it doesn't sound right, I'll go and have a look, and if it is right, great. If it's not, then let's make it right. So yeah, thank you very much, Nadine, for letting me work with you. It's been great fun.
Well, Nikki, I'm just so pleased and honored to have worked with you, and thank you for coming on this call. What time is it where you are? 8 o'clock?
It's now coming up to 8:30 in the evening, so it's not too bad.
Yeah, I can't tell you how outstanding this woman is. I just had so much fun going through her edits. The things she pointed out to me, the thing that I told people the most when I was chatting about you, and I would say, well, I had this line in there, and you wrote back and said, well, you know, it wouldn't have been brown trout. We didn't have brown trout in England until 1867 or something like that. Do you remember that comment? I mean, how does somebody even know that? This woman is just a font of knowledge, and she's read all the Sharp novels and all, like, she knows all about seafaring, and was just such a great help to me in just innumerable ways. And Nikki, I'm so grateful, and it's such a pleasure to have you on the call. And thank you for coming.
Yeah, it certainly helped. I grew up in a town where the HMS Victory was built. So
really?
yeah, things like that. Where the ships? Actually, I didn't know it was Victory. It was the Golden Hind was built there. But yeah, I grew up in Chatham, which has got an old naval dockyard, and you couldn't move in Chatham without learning about it. So
Oh,
it was like coming home, which was absolutely lovely.
that's amazing. Nikki, if you're not too tired at the end, please do stay on the call afterwards if you feel like it, and we can have a personal chat afterwards.
Yeah,
Thank
I'd love to do that. I was going to pop my address on in the chat just in case anybody wants to get in touch.
you. Lovely. And what city
Perfect.
are you
Thank you so
calling
much.
from?
It's not the one you use,
Yeah.
actually, Nadine, but never mind.
Which Nikki, what city are you calling from?
I'm in London at the moment.
You're not. Okay. Well,
Yeah,
thank you
get
so
hold of
much.
me on that. Anybody who's interested in anything. But thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and we'll see you later.
And I'll just second what my mom said, but I just know how much she really appreciated your involvement with her and just how excited she was when she had your input there. So thank you again, Nikki. So the interior design of a book contains countless subtle design decisions that affect the reader's enjoyment of a book. Readers are often not highly aware of good design choices, but they will certainly notice and feel jarred by bad decisions and poor layout. Sarah did a wonderful job in designing the print book interior and in guiding the author in creating the finished product. Nadine is delighted with the book's appearance in both print and also ebook formatting styles and feels like she struck gold in connecting to Sarah through friends. The quality of interior design by Sarah sets a perfect tone for the reader. Sarah chose a script font for the chapter headings that appears somewhat old-fashioned, suitable for a novel set in a historic period. Positioning of the chapter number, headings, quotes, page numbers, text fonts and margins, and placement of the author name and book title are some aspects of design carefully considered by Sarah. She was also a master at tracking multiple content edits during production. Thank you so much, Sarah, for your beautiful work. Your design sense and attention to detail has set a high standard for Birdsgate Publishing. Sarah Peters is also a talented web developer in addition to her expertise in formatting print books for the publishing industry. Sarah upgraded the author website and introduced several special features that have enhanced the site and refreshed its overall look and feel. Sarah's help has been invaluable in refreshing NadineKampen.com in readiness for the launch of Charlie Reyne. Thank you so much for your great work. Sarah's email, so Sarah at gallerycreativeco.com. It's amazing how many creative people we have as neighbors in our communities. Musicians, singers, dancers, chefs, artists, athletes, entrepreneurs, and writers. In looking over our list of guests, Nadine asked us to give a warm welcome on her behalf to her writer friends who have already published or will be publishing soon. Several writers on the call today are former colleagues whose careers intersected with Nadine's. Two of the writers are family friends. If there are others on this call who have also published a book, feel free to mention it in the chat box. We'd love to know. Also, if we missed naming your city, you can add that to the chat. We have prepared a few slides to welcome and congratulate these authors.
Susan A. Thompson published an important account of her life and work in the book Her Worship: Moments in History, Moments in Time. Susan was the 40th mayor of the city of Winnipeg and remains the city's first and only female mayor in its history. Sue Sorensen's published works include A Large Harmonium, The Caller, Reading Christian Ministry in Fiction, Television, and Film, and her latest, a collection of poetry titled Acutely Life. Christine Stewart Nunez published work includes some of these beautiful copies of the books. Her latest is a collection of poetry. Pierre Perrant, first account. His first book is a record of his personal journey of discovery. His second is an account of his adventures in canoeing. James Peters' debut novel, Jacques Be Nimble, was released in 2022. The sequel novel, Rock, Paper, Scissors, is coming to market in 2025. Iris, a writer of historical Regency fiction and reviewers, sends greetings and best wishes for the launch from Southeast Asia. When Iris is not writing Regency romances and Pride and Prejudice variation stories, she enjoys family life and raising her toddler twins.
It's time for that fun history quiz that we promised you. The quiz serves two purposes for us. The first is to acquaint you with some interesting facts about the Regency period. The quiz will offer some fun facts and images that reflect the book's period and social setting. The second purpose is to pick some winners and award a few prizes. And those with the top scores have a chance to win one of 3 signed copies of the novel. So no big deal. Most of us have to guess the answers, so don't worry. Your odds of winning are pretty much even with everyone else's. You will need a pen and paper, so take a moment to get these.
Hi, I'm Elaine, your quiz master. This is a self-scoring quiz. We'll ask a question, pause for you to decide on your answer, and then we'll advance to the next slide, which contains the answer. Give yourself 1 point for each correct answer. There are 10 fun history and weird fact questions. So let's begin. So question 1, what description fits the Regency meaning of the term Luddite? Is it a low-grade iron used in making bayonets? A sailor's term for an imperial ton? A rich lad who attended Cambridge or Oxford? Or someone who destroyed equipment in the name of the fictitious General Ludd? Record your answer now. So the answer is D, someone who destroyed equipment in the name of the fictitious General Ludd. In the early 19th century, English textile workers organized protests and smashed textile manufacturing machines to oppose of new equipment, fearing a loss of work and reduced pay for workers. In modern times, the term is used to describe someone who is opposed to the use of new technologies. Next question. In the Regency era, the term brown bess refer to which of the following? Is it the Prince Regent's favorite apple crisp dessert? A cotton dress commonly worn by chambermaids? A British style of saddle used with thoroughbred racehorses? Or a muzzle-loaded rifle used in the Napoleonic War? Record your answer now. So the answer to question 2 is D. The British infantry were equipped with a flintlock muzzle-loaded musket during the Napoleonic Wars. The top image shows the long land pattern, brown bess muskets. That was the British infantryman's basic arm from 1740 until the 1830s. The second image shows soldiers of the Black Watch armed with a musket, brown bess, and a halberd circa 1790. Did you get that one? Let's go to question 3. According to the Vulgar Dictionary published in 1813, if one says a man has gone to City College, it means A, he can hold his liquor better than most. B, he received support from his parish under the poor law. C, he spent time behind bars at Newgate Prison. Or D, he had frequented most of London's brothels. The answer to question 3 is C. If a man went to City College, it meant he spent time behind bars in Newgate Prison. Question 4. If a 19th century thug said that the swells, Rattler, and Prads are bang up prime, the meaning would be A, that rich fellow carries a fine saber and sheath. the gentleman sports an elegant carriage and fine horses, the lady's coat and gown hides her fine figure, or D, the sailor's hat and boots will sell for a good price. Record your answer now. So the answer to question 4 is B, the gentleman sports an elegant carriage and fine horses. The next question, number 5. If a Regency ball takes place in a fortnight, how many sleeps will you have before the big party? A, 4 nights, B, 7 nights, C, 14 nights, or C, 16 nights? What is a fortnight? Having grown up in England, or being born in England, I know the answer to this one. It's about the only one I do know the answer to. The answer to question 5 is C, 14 nights. A fortnight is 2 weeks. Question 6. Man the yards is a naval command from the age of sail, meaning A, prepare the cannons to fire on an enemy ship. B, muster on deck for inspection by officers on your shift. C, unfurl and secure the sails on a ship of the line. Or D, perform a ceremonial salute standing on the yards of a ship. Record your answer now. The answer to question 6 is D. To man the yards is to perform a ceremonial salute standing on the yards of a ship. One of the historical events noted in the Charlie Reyne novel is the Grand Naval Review that took place at Portsmouth on June 24th and 25th, 1814, honoring the Prince Regent and his royal visitors from allied countries. In this painting, sailors are manning the yards on their ship, saluting the Prince Regent and his guests. Question 7. Significant military medical advances occurred during the Napoleonic Wars, notably use of the flying ambulance. A surgeon from which nation invented this important evacuation vehicle? A, Great Britain, B, France, C, Prussia, D, Portugal. Record your answer now. The answer to question 7 is France. Baron Dominique Jean Larrey invented l'ambulance volante, the flying ambulance, which was an evacuation vehicle drawn by horses and used heavily in French campaigns. He treated casualties based on severity of injury rather than rank, and in doing so, founded the modern triage system. He developed modern surgical techniques and used field hospitals and a dedicated Army ambulance corps. Beloved by the soldiers, he operated on French national and enemy wounded alike. Under his direction, French military medical care evolved to higher standards decades ahead of care in other nations. Question number 8. Which of these statements is true? A, the Regency period took place before the Gregorian era. B, the Regency period took place after Gregorian era. The Regency period took place within the Gregorian era. Sorry, am I pronouncing it right? Georgian era, sorry. And D, the Regency period had nothing whatsoever to do with the Georgian era. The answer to number 8 is C. The Regency period took place within the Georgian era. Question 9. Drawing from their Regency wardrobes and accessories, women often wore a fichu. What is a fichu? Is it a lace ribbon wrapped under the bodice and tied in the back of the dress? Is it B, a light shawl worn over the shoulders, crossed in front, and usually tucked into the bodice? C, an ornamental feather adorning the side of a woman's evening headdress? Or D, a matching jewelry set that includes a necklace, brooch, and earrings? What is a fichu? The answer to question 9 is B. Widely worn in the 18th and 19th century, a fichu is a light shawl or scarf, often linen or lace, worn over the shoulders, typically crossed in front, and usually tucked or pinned into the bodice. The fichu was often worn for modesty reasons to cover the exposed neckline and chest visible with low-cut gowns. Our last question, question 10. The Napoleonic War ended after which of these battles? Was it A, the Battle of Three Emperors? Was it B, the Battle of Trafalgar? Was it C, Battle of Waterloo? Or was it D, Battle of Nations? The answer is that it actually ended after the Battle of Waterloo. So the answer is C. The Battle of Waterloo is described as the battle that changed the face of Europe. Napoleon was defeated on June 18, 1815. Napoleon led troops of his Grand Armée against Anglo-Allied coalition of forces headed by Prussians Marshal Blucher and Britain's General Wellington. The battle was close. Wellington proclaimed it was the nearest run thing you ever saw in your life. So how did you do? Let's start with seeing how many people scored 6 or higher. Please add your name in the chat with your score. Write the word quiz, then your name, then your score. If you already see more than 3 names with higher scores than you, well, there's no chance for you to win, so sorry about that. We'll announce the winners before we begin the question and answer session. So please take a moment now to record your score in the chat.
We are pleased for this next part of our program to ask Nancy Dick to share some personal information about Nadine. Nancy, over to you.
Thanks, Sally. The cup and saucer shown in the image in front of you was a gift Nadine received years back. It originated in England and is from the Regency era. Nadine says this reminds her of several important things. The first, of course, is to remember to sit and enjoy a cuppa with your friends. The second is for her to focus on the things that she is passionate about, including her goals as a writer of historical fiction. As you can tell from the historical time period in the Brantford series, Nadine has asked me to explain a bit about her interest in the Georgian and Regency periods of history. That interest grew, as for many who love 19th century literature, from reading Jane Austen novels. Nadine afterwards turned to the books of Georgette Heyer, who set many of her novels in the Regency period. Her novels, like Jane Austen's, are rich in character development with interesting dialogue and real historical settings. In depicting stories in the Regency era, Nadine is quite diligent about reflecting real historical details. You may have noticed in the Brantford Wagers, for example, she includes events based on the actual weather of 1813, which had widespread fog and massive snow that settled over Great Britain and froze the River Thames. For Nadine, the joy of doing research is learning about the fascinating events, customs, people, and stories from another era. Now, let me, if you will, share some career details. One of the highlights of Nadine's career in communications was a project she undertook with a team early on. She was the project leader and co-author of the YWCA published 5-book Canadian Breast Cancer series. This was a dedicated resource produced for cancer patients from a Canadian perspective. In writing fiction, one thing Nadine finds easy, having learned this early on, is the discipline of sitting down to write. It has been a lifelong practice for her. She especially appreciates the joy she gets now from applying her professional communication skills and experience to the art of writing fiction. In writing her 2 novels, The Brantford Wagers and Charlie Reyne, Nadine has aimed to immerse the reader in a fictional world of traditional historical romance. She looks forward to continually gaining knowledge and understanding of the social and cultural highlights of the Georgian and Regency periods and sharing the journey with her readers. Nadine's beautiful family. Many of you on this call today know Art Nadine personally. Of course, the photo on the left is Art and Nadine, who reside, as we know, in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. Moving left to right, the next is, of course, beautiful Evelyn and her gorgeous daughter Elise, now age 2. And that's Luke, her puppy. Alexander and Allie, also today with us, Allie, holding Huxley and Paxton, ages 3 and 1, busy, busy boys. And of course, they have Arlo. He's right there. And next, of course, is Keith and his partner Edith, who live in Hong Kong, and their dog, whose name is pronounced Booby. And I didn't name it, just saying. As so many of us know, music has always been a very big part of Nadine's life. She inherited that from her beautiful mom, Viv, of course, and her dad. Vivian is a violinist, and Dawn was a professional pianist. One of my all-time favorite things to do is to go to the Palm Room at the Fort Garry and listen to him play. Nadine and her brother Ron play for piano for enjoyment, and shown here is Nadine's 1905 Bell piano that she bought when she was a mere girl of 21. It looks like the next generation is already starting to show an interest. I suggest they drop their candies down the keyboard, but nevertheless, they love the piano, and that's important. Nadine loves to garden and enjoys taking very good care of her home garden, which is an absolute showpiece. She laments that she can't keep houseplants alive for more than a few months. Who needs them for more than that? Summer comes. In addition to working in her garden, she also loves taking photographs of gardens and parklands, and she also enjoys visiting different gardens. Nadine has earned her Master Gardener designation and is a member of the Manitoba Master Gardener Association. She currently serves on the MMGA board as the media director, which entails managing the MMGA web. Several of Nadine's gardening friends are on the call today, and she sends her best wishes as you all take good care of putting your gardens to bed, as they say. Ways to contact Nadine. She would very much appreciate it if you would take a look at her website, www.nadinekampen.com. And you might have noticed that she's revamped the look and feel of this website over the summer. If you're on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Nadine also has sites on those platforms, and type in her name in the search bar and you'll be able to find her there. And of course, email info@nadinekampen.com. In particular, Nadine hopes you will join her mailing list so she can reach out to you with occasional announcements, including a bi-monthly newsletter this October, available to subscribers on her mailing list. And we will now share with you how to walk through joining that particular mailing list so that you're able to receive all the latest news. So to subscribe, you go to www.nadinekampen.com, click on the Learn More button, and it will take you to fill in a contact information sheet, which will then, of course, ensure that you're part of her mailing list, and you will get her briefs, or the Kampen brief 6 times a year, her writing projects, blog alerts, and so forth. It now brings us to the part of the program that I know I have been very much looking forward to, and it is my great pleasure to introduce and invite Nadine to read to us from her novel, Charlie Reyne. So Nadine, would you please give us a little bit of a hand tip, if you will, about the excerpts from your book that you're planning to share with us?
Certainly will. Thank you so much, Nancy. What a lovely introduction. Very much appreciate it. I'm going to read to you from 2 chapters of the book, and one of them is the first. I thought I had picked a later piece, and then I changed my mind because I didn't want to give you any spoilers by sharing some of the fun stuff at the back. So I'm taking you right to the front, and it opens up in Spain in the year 1813, just before a major battle in the war, a real battle, Battle of Vittoria. And so this is introduction of Charlie, the main character. Chapter 1, Behind the Drums. Hope everyone can hear me. Charlie Reyne tucked a few loose strands of hair under her worn cap and watched nervously as the long lines of soldiers surged forward. Hearing the distant beating of the drums, Charlie felt for a moment that the rapid beating of her heart mimicked the same rhythm. She shook her head at her foolishness and listened afresh to the pounding of drums as the British and Portuguese battalions marched towards Vittoria, a little town in northeastern Spain. The air on the plains felt unbearably hot despite the early hour, preferring the moisture-laden winds of the sea in Portugal to the drier air here in Spain. She hoped for a small breeze to pick up and offer relief from the intense summer heat. Today, on the 21st of June, 1813, Allied troops stationed in the Iberian Peninsula traveled in 4 contingents, moving northeast along rough roads and narrow lanes towards the open plains of Vittoria. They aimed to unite along the way with rebel bands of skilled Spanish guerrilla to bolster their forces. The Allied forces had advanced well over 20 miles over rough terrain on each of the past 3 days. According to Charlie's father, information had arrived during the night indicating that they were within a half-day's march of their destination. Based on their present course, they would meet head-on with the combined French and Spanish forces advancing south and east of their lines. Despite exhaustion from this latest push, most of the veteran soldiers shared an air of expectation. Charlie fully shared that feeling. She again looked out at the men marching ahead. She felt an ache in her heart knowing what the day held for them. The soldiers in front of her were for the most part an experienced group, understanding from the pace of their march and the mood of their leaders that engagement was imminent. The supply train surged forward. Wagons rumbled along uneven ground, churning dust into the dry air. Situated towards the rear of the supply cavalcade, Charlie waited for her turn to move forward. "Come on, darlings," she urged a pair of old mules, flicking the end of the long reins against their rumps. The mules ignored her. Charlie climbed down from the wagon and moved alongside the larger of the 2. She blew gently in its ear. The mule tossed its head and lunged forward, pulling its partner with him. "Thank you, dear boys," she said, hopping back onto the wagon and taking up the reins again. Charlie was an old hand at driving carts and wagons. An unlucky storm at sea on her journey home to England had stranded Charlie in Portugal at the outbreak of the war. Since that time, she had travelled frequently on campaigns with her father, General Sir William Reyne, and had become an experienced driver of mule teams. Overhearing her father complaining that he was critically short of drivers, Charlie volunteered to help. While she typically travelled further back, staying with the baggage train, today she was helping with the supply transports. "You might as well use me as a driver, Father," she had offered the night before, spooning the last of hot stew into her mouth. "You know I can handle the teams as well as any of your men." "True," the general nodded. He paused to consider the matter. "I do need your help. You have to promise me to stay well back of the action." He reached into his breast pocket and pulled out a map of the Spanish plain near Vittoria, laying it out and flattening the folds. "We are to engage then, are we?" she asked, studying his expression. "We must be fairly close." General Reyne nodded, knowing he could trust his daughter to keep matters to herself. When we reach this area, he tapped the map, the troops will move into their columns in battle formation. All going well, I want you to set up here, north of the river. You'll have a clear line of vision. I want you to draw up some charts for our field positions. Can you do that for me? If we must retreat, or if you feel threatened, you and Gus and Will are to take the mules and retrace your route. Leave everything you hear, and go at once. Understood? Charlie reached for her father's glass and took a sip of his watered-down rum. She pulled her stool in closer to the table to view his map, nodding in agreement as she leaned in. I will give strict instructions to Gus and Will. They will not leave your side, said her father. Charlie Reyne left her tent at sunrise the next morning. A hawk screeched in the cloudless sky, spiraling overhead as it swooped down and caught a small bird in mid-flight. She shuddered, shook off the image, and shifted her gaze to look around the camp. Hundreds of men were within her range of vision, most of whom had slept out in the open. She watched them, sitting in small groups, eating their morning rations, pulling on their boots, or checking their weapons. How many of these men, she wondered, would return to sit another time around an evening campfire? Who would share another meal? She knew with utmost certainty that for some, their meager breakfast would be their last. A tall, slender woman came up quietly behind Charlie and touched the young woman on the shoulders. My goodness, you startled me, cried Charlie, jumping up. Whatever is the matter? The woman's hands fell to her sides. She smiled gently and said, I just wanted to see you off. Are you ready? You must promise to do as father has told you. E tutto estará bene. All will be well, little one. Signora Sophia Montalto's posture and bearing bespoke confidence and elegance, notwithstanding her strange garments. Today she had donned one of the general's shirts, worn loosely over her dress, to help ward off the sun. In place of a woman's customary light shift underneath her dress, she instead wore a pair of men's trousers for ease of movement, as did many of the women in the passenger train. For both personal and political reasons, Sophia had adapted to the times and her surroundings. Despite Sophia's status as General Reyne's wartime mistress, she was the only woman Charlie could remember standing in the role of a real mother to her. The men, very few of whom had ever met the general's wife, affectionately referred to Sophia as the second Mrs. Reyne. Since Charlie's birth mother was presumably still alive and residing in England, Sophia knew there could never be a formal reunion between herself and General Reyne. She was a widow whom the general had met when the British joined the war effort in Portugal. Cared for by the general, adored by his daughter, and respected by the troops, Sophia was content with her situation. From a practical perspective, her relationship made her eligible for half rations from the Army's food supplies as the general's spouse. Similarly, Charlie also received half rations as the daughter of an officer. Charlie's father, fortunately a man of some means, supplemented their rations from time to time when supplies were sufficient. Sophia reached out and tenderly brushed away a strand of hair from Charlie's forehead. Did your papai remind you to take your drawing case? I'm sure the other officers are envious that his reports are so thorough and feature such detailed maps. Charlie nodded. Have everything ready. She again felt a heightened sense of nervousness, a combination of dread and anxiety that lay like a heavy cloak on her shoulders whenever battle was imminent. This time, however, she also felt hopeful. A significant campaign was underway. A victory now would give them the upper hand in this never-ending war against Emperor Bonaparte's army. Could they win this next battle? Might they return to the coast in the autumn and stay for the winter in Oporto? If luck held and other victories followed, perhaps they could even sail to England next spring. So those are the opening few pages of Charlie Reyne. My second reading is in chapter 4, called The Military or the Hospital Camp in Oporto. And in this chapter, she's already met I call them the two male leads, but they're the two male characters who are the main characters among the men. And she met Lieutenant Niles during the battle earlier, and now she's at this hospital, and she gets to meet the second male character, who is Captain Brantford, the brother of James Brantford, who was the principal character in the first novel. Brantford felt reluctant to discuss the private lives of others. He was about to introduce another subject, but found his interest suddenly piqued as the topic shifted to the woman he had personally helped earlier by the camp gates. The shorter lady is the youngest, their host continued. She's the daughter of one of our generals. She had been with her father in India for 2 years and became stranded here on her way home to England. She was but a child when she first arrived in Portugal. I've known her since then. Dr. Upton looked pensive. As much as I appreciate her help, I get angry and worried every time I see her, he said, his brow furrowed. I've asked myself 1,000 times, what can her father be thinking to let her travel on campaign with him? I would not have done so with any daughter of mine. She is barely 19 years of age, yet she had seen more of this sad world than any of us would wish to see. I cannot imagine what compels him to keep her here, or her to stay. Brantford looked again towards the young lady hard at work in the opposite tent. He was curious about her. He almost felt annoyed that Mr. Elgin chose this moment to press for more information on their supplies. He forced himself to turn his mind to matters of business. To be clear on the length of stay here for our men, Brantford said, speaking of his injured men, they are registered on leave to recover. One of our officers will return for them in roughly a month. If any recovered decently before then, you may put them to work. I trust you know how grateful we are that you've accepted some weary Navy men into your army camp. And thank you again for the meal, sir. It's been many months since we enjoyed a freshly cooked meat pie. Nigh on a year, sir, Mr. Elgin sighed ruefully. The conversation switched back to medical matters and arrangements to transport roughly 100 patients from the hospital camp to the harbor in Oporto. They'll need to depart from here in 3 days and leave early in the morning to reach us on time to sail with our convoy, instructed the captain. Mr. Elgin can supply you with the details you need. Be sure to allow sufficient time to arrive on schedule. We're loading passengers mid-morning, immediately after supplies are on board. Mr. Elgin and Dr. Upton chatted for a few minutes more. Brantford, free to shift his attention where he wished, noticed that a British officer from the Light Dragoons had joined the three ladies he had recently been observing. The cavalry officer appeared to be in private conversation with the young lady who had captured Brantford's attention. Still seated at his table at the edge of the dining tent, Brantford suddenly heard a loud snorting sound. Startled, he saw a large boar tear across the open grass straight towards his table. My God, the damn thing is charging us, cried Mr. Elgin, slamming his hands onto the table. It was so entirely unexpected that Brantford needed a moment to assess what was happening. Jumping to his feet, he reached instinctively for his loaded pistol, cocking it in readiness to fire. Stop! Good heavens, do not shoot! Charlie shouted at him from the medical tent. Chica! She yelled out to the animal, swaying her arms excitedly to attract its attention. Come this way, sweet girl, I'm over here, this way! The large boar, a massive sow with swollen teats, responded to Charlie's shout and swerved towards her. Unsure of what was going to happen, Brantford kept his pistol pointed at the boar, ready to fire. One of the women nearby screeched in fright. Smiling, Charlie dropped to her knees and held out her arms. To Brantford's amazement, the boar skidded to a stop, lowered its snout, and pushed its forehead gently against the woman's chest. She wrapped her arms around the fat creature and laid her cheek against its large head. Shortly afterwards, rising to her feet, she tugged on the sow's ear and started marching it back across the grass. Who let you out, frightening everyone? Charlie scolded the animal. Thank goodness you found me. What kind of trouble would you be in, Where are your little ones? Ah, there they all are now, trying to find you. Time to wean them, yes? No wonder you ran away, she laughed. She patted the boar on the head with her free hand while leading it towards a shaded enclosure beyond the tents. The men could hear her teasing and lecturing the animal as she led it away. Captain Brantford stared after the young woman. He felt his heart pounding from worry at what might have happened to her had the boar not lowered its tusks. He looked down at his pistol, turning it in his hand. After closing the far gate, Charlie turned towards the captain. You had best keep that pistol handy, sir, she called out to him across the narrow field. If the camp guards find out that you almost shot our darling Chica, you'll have to fight your way out of here. As though to soften her criticism, Charlie gave a slight wave in his direction as she walked back to her tent. The head surgeon chuckled. That damn stupid cow is loved by everyone. Sow is loved by everyone, he said. Chica has produced enough offspring to feed an entire army. I must remember to get that gate repaired so her litter stays safe. The surgeon excused himself to return to his duties, and Mr. Elgin left to pick up the supplies they had ordered for their ship. Bidding his host farewell, Captain Brantford was making his way across the grassy square towards their wagon when he heard someone call out his name. Recognizing a familiar tone of voice, he turned around in disbelief. Niles, good grief, is that really you? Brantford almost shouted his greeting, breaking into a huge smile. Hurrying across the space that divided them, the two men met in a hearty embrace. Not in a million years did I expect to meet you here, said Lieutenant Miles, pushing his friend to arm's length while he eagerly searched his face. Are you well? I thought you were about to be impaled by that fat boar. I am well, as you see, said Brantford, grinning. And you? He surveyed his friend, looking over the dusty uniform and checking for signs of injury. Do you have any members of your division encamped here? I'm surprised to see you in Portugal. Last I heard, your battalion had been at Vitoria in June, then headed up the coast in late summer. It's been an age since I received news from you. The other man's face grew solemn. We have much to catch up on. Are you anchored nearby for a few days? When do you leave? Let us meet up in town. I have an officer meeting surgery in the next hour, and I must speak to that little lady over there beforehand. He looked solemnly in Charlie's direction. I can free up some time tomorrow. Brantford followed his friend's glance towards the woman coming back from escorting the boar. It surprised Brantford to see Niall staring at her, deep in thought. Are you acquainted with her? Brantford asked. Yes, a little. Not especially well, he replied, rattled by encountering Miss Reyne in camp. He had sent Miss Reyne's father a letter, but this was his first time seeing her since their time together on a rooftop during their night in Victoria. What I had learned about her initially has all been overturned. It's a complicated story. How long are you staying in the harbour? Can you meet me tomorrow? I can come to you. Tomorrow is perfect for me, said Brantford. There's a small inn, the only one with a dining room near the wharf. It has a blue awning. Can you join me there? You look like you could use a proper dinner. I've never seen you this thin. That concludes my reading of sample chapter material. Hope you enjoyed that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mom. I just wanted to say a little bit too. I'm just amazed at how much attention to detail and imagination is required for storytelling, and that goes to anyone too who's an author on this call. But it is just crazy how you formulate all these ideas and then turn it into a chapter, and then from the chapter it turns into a physical book. And just to be able to kind of reach this point and have it come through in a launch, it's just a very exciting thing. So thank you again, Mom, for sharing. It was fun to hear these parts, and it helped introduce us to Charlie Reyne and gives us a glimpse into her life and story. For those of you who are wanting to buy the novel, the following screen will show you a few options. Ebooks are available exclusively from Amazon's Kindle for the first 90 days. Afterwards, it will be distributed in all markets, including Kobo, Google Play, and Apple. Paperbacks can be ordered on Amazon at present. Both Charlie Reyne and the Brantford Wagers are available online. The process is print on demand, and the book is shipped directly to your address. So the book will become more widely available over the coming weeks and months, and you can check Nadine's website for current details and links to the various outlets.
I'm now going to share a review left by someone who's been lucky enough to read the whole book. I loved the book, the history, the adventures, the characters, the writing. I particularly loved Charlie. Such a charming mix of guile, determination, and innocence. You couldn't help but fall under her spell. Her faults were all forgivable and far outweighed by her courage and caring nature. You can see how she has won me over. Captain Brantford is honorable but shrewd, although he's bemused by the force of nature that is Charlie. I rarely give 5 stars, but this book won me over completely. Please remember, once you've read the book, that book reviews help other readers decide if the book will suit them. After you've read the novel, consider adding your review on reader platforms. You may be familiar with those on Goodreads, Amazon, and BookBub.
Before we begin the Q&A, we do have some signed book prizes to award. Elaine, will you please let us know the winners?
Absolutely. So congratulations to our history quiz winners. Great job, ladies. The winners are Lisa Renner and Nikki Gallers, who both got 8 correct. And our third winner is Cindy Larson, who got 7 correct. So congratulations, ladies. Please send your mailing address to Nadine by email at info@nadinekampen.com for you to get your prize.
Thank you, Elaine, and congrats again to all the winners.
Bev, could we invite you to please open the Q&A with a few questions to start this session?
Not a problem. Nadine, you mentioned to me that the timeline for Charlie Reyne is almost identical to the timeline for the Brantford Wagers, and some of the characters do overlap. Can you share with us a little bit about why you chose to write the sequel that occurs simultaneously with the first novel?
Thanks, Bev. The reason is I thought it would be fun, and I didn't realize quite how difficult that was going to be to try to intersect two stories, knowing that some key ideas had already been shared in the first story, and I wanted to keep things interesting and that you could read the book in either order, and you can do that. There's a couple of details that occur that are disclosed in the novels that enrich the other ones, but it was very challenging because I couldn't change anything. Book one, the Brantford Wagers had already been published, and here I was trying to fit in the storyline and all of the major events that were happening during the war and the events that were happening in the first book, so that the characters could, where they did overlap, which was in Portsmouth and the timing was in October. So you've got Captain Brantford and Lieutenant Niles and other people coming home from Spain. The war's not over, it's still going on. But then Brantford has to be nearby enough with grandmother and sister and family to come and meet for a rendezvous in Portsmouth. Trying to get all that timing to work and remembering and keeping track of things. I used Excel sheets. So I have my dates and what was going on in the world and where the characters were. It got really quite complicated. And I thought, I don't know if I would do this next time, but it certainly was fun and interesting to do it. And I really had a blast doing it that way.
That's really interesting. And I just want to make a side comment on that. I had read the first book, Brantford Wagers, 2 years ago. And then I read Charlie Reyne, which I read in no time at all. But I did go back to read Brantford Wagers because I thought, wait a minute. So it's kind of it's really interesting to do that, and then to see how you did incorporate all those things. So well done. Did
Thank
you
you.
have?
I don't know that I would ever do it that way again. I'd have to think hard about that.
Did you have any particular particular challenges in writing Charlie Reyne that differ from when you wrote the Brantford Wagers?
I was pretty well versed. I've been reading Regency history and the timeline, Georgian history and Regency history, which that's just before Victorian, for a long time. I've read literature from the time and so forth, but I had never thought about the war itself and taking people onto a ship. So for this book, I actually go right into the battlefield, and I go right onto a war frigate of like a warship, and my characters are on there. So I had to learn the lingo. I had to really understand like what trying to research uniforms. My goodness, that's one place would tell you they wore this, another source would tell you they wore that, and then I couldn't get the lingo down of everybody's seniority. And in fact, I got some really good schooling on that from Nikki, who said, well, that person can't be a sergeant if his brother's this, because there's a class difference there. They'd have to be in the same class to both have those types of officer names. So there were things that I just didn't understand that I had to get familiar with very deeply and quickly. And then taking them on board a frigate, I watched all sorts of videos to see what the ships looked like, how big it was, how many people were on board, how do you talk about the cannons and which way like do the flaps go up or down over the cannons, and there was so much to learn. Those are the challenges for me, setting the story but I just decided to do that, to go right into those scenes before I brought Charlie Reyne back over to England. So she had these experiences that were quite unique for a woman, unique for anyone really, and for her, she has a way of dealing with things that's rather special to her.
And that's very
language and the historical detail there was quite challenging for me.
The novel says that the book is the second in the series. Can you tell us a bit about your future plans?
Yes, I have it mapped out in my head. I'm going to go back a decade, probably 1802, 1803, maybe 1801. I haven't quite settled on the starting point, and I'm going to look at the life of Alice and Brantford, who is the elder sister of the two boys. So I'm going to go back to the time when the boys were teenagers, and their sister has her life going on, and the decisions she makes and why she makes certain decisions, and how her life moves forward. And so there'll be a few teenage stories about the boys, and there'll be the story about the sister. So I'm keeping it. The Brantford series means I'm talking still about the Brantford family and friends.
Great, thank you. All people that are present here today I encourage you to write your questions in the chat column. I do have congratulations, Nadine, from several people here, and I'm sure you will see those. Eleanor and Helene and Christine and Susan all wrote congratulatory comments in the chat that you will want to take a look at. One other question that I had, perhaps while we're kind of waiting, maybe somebody else has a question, would be, since we were children together and we spent a lot of time going to Sandy Hook and whatever, I remember you writing stories and you'd read them to me in the back of the car as we were heading out. Uncle Don would be driving and away we'd go. And
sorry.
and so my question is, where do you get all this inspiration from? How does this just come? And especially this period of history. I know you're a Jane Austen fan, but would you consider remaining with this period, or will you think of another period you'd like to delve into?
Other periods would be down the line, perhaps, but I actually love this period of history. And the more, what the saying is, the more you learn about something, the more deeply interested you become. And it takes quite a lot of time and a lot of research to actually know your business, so to speak. So I will stay in the Regency Georgian timeline for the foreseeable future. And you asked a different question, was about how do stories come to people. And here's what I think. I mean, there's a writer in everyone, right? And what I told myself when I was getting started, especially at a generous age, I heard someone use that language, is that not to be intimidated just because you haven't done something before, not to be intimidated that you can't do it. And I had never written a novel, and I hadn't mapped out an entire story. And in fact, I'm one of those flying by the seat of your pants writers, as opposed to the really meticulous planners. I start writing and then it develops. But what I've learned over the years in all the various kinds of writing that I've done is that the best way is just sit down and start. Get your seat on that chair and just start writing. And then things start to open up too. And it's amazing because you go back in when you're writing, you write in drafts and you add layers. You don't do everything all at once. You don't proofread while you're editing. You do things separately. So the big thing is to just get your ideas down and then flesh something out, write a chapter, then find a connection. And then after a while, you go back and embed things later. It looks like you're brilliant, but it's not. You finish the story and you realize, oh, I better say something about that in chapter 2. Otherwise it's strange. There's no segue. So you fix things later and giving myself permission to fail at the start and to perhaps not write the best ever. Like, it's just okay. It was freeing to just know that I could, it's my business to write, and I'll do it. I'll do it my way, and I'll take my time and not be intimidated. And that helped me.
Thank you. I do have 2 questions that I see right off the top, and you might have kind of answered this a little bit. What do you like best about the Regency period?
I think this is one tiny little decade and a bit in time. It can be, you can consider it 30 years, you can consider it 10 years, 11 years, but it's a really transformative period. First of all, as women, it's the beginning of women's rights, and men's rights too, for that matter, because the rights of man, the rights of women, people were starting to think that the aristocracy, it's right after the French Revolution, the aristocracy and royalty, why are they such better people than the rest of us? That was the common man was starting to really speak up for him or herself, and it was a time when property rights, if you didn't own property, you had no control in society. So this was a period of hugely rapid transformation. It was the end of the British stopped the slave trade on at least transporting slaves. It took a while for all things to work through. Women were starting to write, women were starting to read. The merchant class was rising. They were in many cases better off and more educated than the gentry. So it was just a time of massive change, and I love that about this period. It's really an energetic, transformative period and full of fascinating stories.
Thank you. And thank you, Deb, for asking that question. Ashley asks, Do you use your personal life in your writing?
I think so. I think everybody does. It's not any particular very clear thing, but you write from your own experience. You write from how you see people. You write from how you think people think. So you very much draw. I do, Ashley, on what I've observed, and I have observed a lot. We all have, right? And then another thing to just pure make up, because it's really fun to make things up. Where else do you get to lie? You know, you tell a story and somebody can't tell you that you're wrong. It's because it's your story. So you merge what you know about the world, what you think, what you want about the world, what your dreams for it are, and some of the harsh realities, and try to come up with a place that's a special world for the readers to come into.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that question too, Ashley. Well, thank you, Nadine.
We really appreciated getting lots of good questions there. It was nice. Thanks, Bev, and thank you, Mom, as well, for sharing. Nice to hear some background information about how everything's done. To all of our guests, that concludes our program today. Remember to stay on the call if we need your mailing address.
We're so happy to have you join us. Thank you for sharing in this milestone occasion and making an online launch possible.
I would like to just tell you how much I've appreciated you all being here. It's awesome that you could come out and celebrate with us today and help us launch this book. And I just appreciate you all so much. This is take time out of your life and come and join us for a bit of storytelling and learn a little bit about history. I'm so deeply indebted to my launch team. I just think they're amazing women in their own lives and an inspiration to me. I'm grateful to my mom, to whom this book is dedicated. And I just thank Ali, Evelyn, Elaine, Nancy, and Bev, and Vivian for taking part in this program, and all of you for coming, and especially, and I thank my professional team, Sarah and Nikki. What a treat to have you here. So thank you so much, everyone. You can carry on and enjoy your day, and thank you very, very much, and we'll see you next time. Take care.